Hello. Welcome to all of you on this discussion about AI, cybersecurity, and automation. Before we launch the discussion panel, I would like to thank all of you for being here. And it's a great pleasure for me to take part of this event where we gather brilliant and like-minded people to discuss about emerging technologies and to inspire and get inspired. So we all agree that Africa has such an opportunity to grow, and all of us could benefit from it. And today we want to take this moment to reflect collectively on how we may use these new technologies to shape the future of our continent. So before I get started, a few words about me. I'm Zmrda Jdidi, lead data scientist at Innovation City. And for those of you who don't know the company, we are a mission-driven company that believes on the power of innovation and the potential of Tunisian youth. So beside managing the technopole of SUS and Nfida through our Industry 4.0 Center, we assist Tunisian industrialists on all stages of their digital transformation journey to build factories of tomorrow. We are also on the second edition of our incubator accelerator specialized on Industry 4.0 called Startifor, and we will launch soon our specialized AI incubator called AI Garage. So I want to welcome with me today Mr. Hatem from iCampus. I just need to check. Okay. So we have with us Mr. Hatem Hadid from iCampus, Mr. Bashir Afifi from FabSkill, and Mr. Qais Al-Majri, the General Director of Innovation at the Ministry of Innovation. So before we get into the questions, I will let our panelists introduce themselves and their structures. Could we start with you, Mr. Hatem?
Thank you. My name is Hatem Hadid. I'm the CTO and co-founder of iCampus. iCampus is an AI NLP startup. We work on underrepresented languages, so we work on African languages and Arabic dialects to create products based in the native languages of this population.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Bashir?
Hi, I'm Bashir Afifi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of FabSkill. FabSkill is a startup. In FabSkill, we work on how to make the link between talented people and, in the other side, recruiters from companies and startups. We use for that mainly two technological pillars. I would say artificial intelligence for matchmaking, but also we use a bunch of video technologies like for live video interviews and pre-recorded video interviews. Thank you for having me.
Qais Al-Majri. I work for the Ministry of Industry, Energy and Mines, and the ministry in charge with the technology portfolio. I am General Director of Innovation, and we work for developing technology and innovation ecosystem in Tunisia. And we have been working on AI strategy and national AI strategy in collaboration with the Ministry of ICT and the GIZ since 2 months now, and we are progressing in that, and we come back to this afterwards.
Great. So my first question goes for you, Mr. Bashir. So we all know that Africa has a unique opportunity to develop its competitiveness through artificial intelligence. And we have seen a lot of AI work on e-health, agriculture, and even in security. And I think one of the main challenges that may face any early stage startup or even a startup is to collect the data in order to train and test their models. So we want really to know how you have been facing this challenge and how, what are the strategies that you have deployed in order to collect good quality of data?
Yeah, sure. In our case, I will talk about our case, FabSkill, what we did to collect those kind of data so that we can train our models. So mainly we are getting our data from like 3 distinct sources. First, because we are a platform which is quite similar to LinkedIn, we get inputs from the candidates, from the users about their resume. That's the first source of data, letting the users include their data by a manual way. But in the same time, what we do is that we are working on CV parsing, getting textual data from CVs and trying to understand those data. So users bring the data from with these 2 sources. We use the first source so that we can understand better. Like we compare what the user said when filling the inputs and what he's putting in his resume. We used also some external data, public data sets, but we used also some trusted AIs and models from providers so that we can train our own models. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Mr. Hatem, NLP models are one of the most data-consuming models, and I guess that even iCampus potentially have faced this issue. So what is the strategy that you have deployed to train the NLP models you have been developing through the past years?
Okay. At iCampus, we started collecting data since 2014. We collect data, we clean the data, we make sure that this is good quality data, respecting the AI ethics. So it's own data that we do at iCampus in our research department. And this is allow us to create our own models that we will use to create products. So everything is done in-house. Doing this, we create, having our own data and having our own models. This is allow iCampus to tackle innovative projects in Africa and the Middle East. So we find the key of a language based on our own data. If you find the key of a language, you can imagine the number of opportunities and products that we can create at iCampus.
So I guess you have been using potentially web scraping, Facebook and tweets in order to have the data, right? Yeah,
as Hiba said, we went to any place and any source that we can have data. It goes from open source, it goes from the government, it goes from TV, radio, any place where we can find data. We collect this data, we clean it because it's very important to have a good quality data so our models can perform a good quality AI and NLP products.
Yeah. So 214, you have started the data collection, and 2021, you have launched the first, let's say, NLP model specialized on dialect detection of the Tunisian language in collaboration with Unsteady. So could you tell us more about TuneBird and this collaboration between these 2 startups?
Okay. TuneBird is a language model for the Tunisian dialect. It was created by Tunisians for Tunisians. So it's the first time that we have a language model of a dialect in Africa and Arab countries. This language model is, we decided to make it open source since the beginning, so everyone can use this language model, students, researchers, companies. TuneBird, it's not the end, it's the beginning. It's the beginning of a new era of artificial intelligence for the Tunisian dialect, but also we work on other languages in Africa like Bambara, Hausa, and now we are creating language models for these dialects in Africa. It was a nice collaboration with NStudy, but we have also other collaborations with startups in Africa and universities to push the value system, not the ecosystem, value system more further. And and we believe that we need, in Africa, we need to work together to collaborate with the startups and universities, because if we don't do it, no one will do it for us.
But what are the main tasks that TuneBird can perform right now, like sentimental analysis and question answering, probably? So what are really the main tasks that TuneBird can perform?
So TuneBird is a language model. Recently, there was a revolution in the NLP field with these language models. For example, BERT was created by Google, and all the tasks of the NLP now has much better performances. So having this language model, it's like having the key of a language. When you have the key, you can deploy this language model in different products. It's going from sentiment analysis, named entity recognition, hate abusive speech, etc., etc.
Awesome. So, Mr. Qais, you have been involved in different initiatives in the past, let's say, 3 years. And AI is becoming an increasingly important item on the policy of almost every government. So could you tell us if in Tunisia we have already initiated or drafted like some strategic plan, national strategic plan about AI?
Yes, thank you for the question. In fact, we have been working on AI strategy since, or AI roadmap, since 2019, and we were really interested to go deeper to this technology because it's one of the pillars of the fourth revolutions. You know that the AI market is evaluated at more than $15 trillion. It's a huge amount. It's about the current GDP of China and India together combined. So it's something revolutioning the world, and we are not allowed to be left behind. So we need to start to think about that. In 2017, a lot of countries began to launch a lot of AI strategies, the path or the methodology that we choose is to make something like a pyramid inversed. We didn't launch the AI strategy, but we worked in the field with a lot of AI startups in order to understand and to demystify this technology, especially in the public sector. So we first began by collaborating with different scientists, researchers, startups, administration, in order to make a lot of workshops, a lot of AI and pilot projects, especially with iCompass, which was a good and very instructive collaboration with them, and NStudy also. And we tried to understand what are the main problems and the main issues about developing AI strategies. So we worked for 2 years in order to implement this, and we have trained a lot of nearly 1,000 officials. We are working on 5 or 6 AI projects with the administration in public sector. We have also a lot of workshops and raising awareness for private and the public sectors. The point now is we have already choose a cabinet in order to develop the national AI strategy in collaboration with ICT Ministry. So we will have the kickoff in next month. We are already working with them since 2 months now. In September, we started the official work for the national AI strategy, and a lot of pillars. Among them, of course, the data challenges, pillars for talent, for infrastructure, for data, for governance, etc. And the coming projects will have, especially in the coming month, open innovation challenges, which will be launched to the AI ecosystem and startups in order to deliver AI solutions, both for private and public sectors. And for the data, just I want to leave some comments about what was discussed right now. Most of people and startups think that data is in the government sector. But the best example here with us is iCompass. I suggest that the startups don't rely on the government to have data. The data is not structured enough to be data for startup projects, first. Second, the administration is not really up to date to deliver a good quality data, and they have a lot of fear to be open enough to give data because it's a conservative administration. There is no regulatory framework to open this data. So the best example for Tunisian, but also for all the African countries, is to rely on themselves to create data. And in our recent history, the best example is China. China 10 years ago, they don't have any data. And they deployed a lot of sensors and to collect and to create valuable data. So we have to make as Instadeep or iCompass what is doing now. They are creating the path like Hannibal do. So we have to create their own data and create the dream for AI startup to become a leader for the continent.
Thank you for all of these details. So we have a scoop. In Tunisia, we start to draft our strategic plan, AI strategic plan. So, Mr. Bashir, what are the expectations of a startup regarding this kind of governmental initiatives?
Yeah, good question. I'm a little bit liberal, and I think that startups, they need to make their path by themselves. So as you were telling, you can't rely on the data that that the government have. As my friends from iCompass, as we said, we are all gathering our own data from the market. So what I would think is that we need to work by ourselves. If there is something good coming from the government, that would be a great and excellent news. Otherwise, we do it by ourselves.
So now we can talk about a place where awesome companies meet talented people. So the promise of your platform is to matchmake between talents and companies. So personally, I'm curious to know how the matchmaking is made.
Yeah, for sure. For this, we are using a bunch of artificial intelligence techniques, starting from NLP, also trying to understand the user profile, trying to keyword spotting from his own resume, so that we can understand a little bit what are the main skills that this candidate is offering. Doing the same thing from the other side with the text related to the open job position. We are also using scoring models so that we can compute a probability so that this candidate is a good fit for this particular job. And we are also doing some hidden work even on video, because we are using techniques like speech to text, so that we can understand interview videos and again keyword spotting from those videos, so that we can better understand the candidate profile. That's why we are called FabSkill. For us, a candidate is like a cloud of skills turning around this candidate, and we are trying to compute distances between these skills and between the job requirement.
Great. So I guess that the candidates will fill in some forms on your platform. And I want to ask regarding the personal data of these candidates. So is FabSkill GDPR compliant?
Yeah, for sure. Let's say that we consider the GDPR rather than a kind of ethical contract than a legal contract. We are a B2B companies, so we are selling our services to companies. Our customers are the companies, but we think that the most valuable entity in this little ecosystem is the user itself. So what we do is that we are trying to enable a kind of trust between us and the users. Like Google said once, don't be evil. In fact, we are trying to build a trust between our company and users, so we are transparent about the use of the data. We are helping them to get the job, enabling them to edit the data or even to cancel an application. I think that this way we are compliant with GDPR. I would say that we are even more compliant than when you send an email for a job. You know, when you send an email for a job, you can roll back the thing. You can, unless you send a second email to the recruiter saying, please delete my personal data. For us, the data is stored in the cloud. And every time the candidate, for example, cancel his application, it's deleted from the recruiter site.
Thank you. Mr. Qais and Mr. Hatem, do you want to share some thoughts regarding the GDPR and the current situation in Africa and in Tunisia?
Okay, just I want to give some ideas about data. We think there are some traps about data. We think that there is no place for startups and small startups in front of these giant tech companies like Google or GAFAM or Baidu. So it's not true, because data is available and we can create data, and there is a large opportunity for small companies to create and innovate more than big companies. And we have a lot of apps and solutions which is currently developed, and they are really competing big companies. So there is a lot of opportunities to African startups and Tunisian startups. Second thought is going together is fast. And when we see the initiative between iCompass and with Instadeep, it would be comfortable for them to be working just by their own, and everyone is developing his own language model. But their cooperation make a big impact and make them going fast. So I suggest that all Tunisian startups, but also African startups, to go and work together, collecting data together and profit from this collaboration. Third thought, data is our problem. No, it's not our problem. It's the problem of all the countries. And I am talking a lot of, I am in the OECD expert group talking about AI policy in the world, and every country, Korea, South Africa, Europe, every country have a problem of data. But the one who work harder, the one who work faster, the one who did the hard work, he will succeed. So it's the problem of everybody and every country. So our real challenge is to make people work and dig for this new oil for us. Now about RGDB, it's an ethical framework that is currently developed, but also it's a weapon for European countries to protect themselves. And I think as Tunisians, as African, we would think about some arms to protect our new oil and new data. So Europeans are protecting their territory by giving GPDR to protect their own data from exploitation and from the use of big American companies and Chinese companies. But in the coming years, and when we see the law of population and demography, Africa will be in 2100, 3 of 4 people are African in the world. So the biggest data will be available in the African continent. So we should protect our natural resources, our data in the future. So we have our duty to start thinking about how to protect our data and how to value this data in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really time to protect the data of our citizens. Mr. Hatem, do you want to add something on this subject?
As Qais said, data is very, very important. At iCompass, as we work in low-resourced languages or underrepresented languages, we are pioneer to collect data from African languages. We deploy our products in different countries, in Africa, in Tunisia, in the Middle East. We respect the ethic or the law in each country, but our dream is to see an African strategy about how to protect data and how to protect our own data in Africa.
Yeah, thank you. So now we can open the mic, I think, to our attendees.
Everything is clear. We don't need questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm Ahmed from iCompass. We are not sponsor of this event, but I have a question for Qais. We are talking about AI strategy, etc. We think that we should have a unique interface with government, not only in industrial ministry, but on the top government. So maybe you should help government to have a unique interface with a startup value system. So thank you. It was not a question.
Yeah, no, I will. Yeah. So if there is no other question, I just give some thoughts about your remark.
My friend has one.
Do you really believe that we can take over the world with our tech?
Yes. Just another question. Yes. I'm coming back.
Yeah. I have a question. I'm Chano Saho from Senegal. My question is why Tunisia is, we know that Tunisia is like at the forefront of all things related to AI, deep tech, technology in Africa. But do you think that by being a leader in Africa, in those clusters, you will be able to build a mainstream unicorn startup in Africa in this strategy? Why we do not see, for example, a big Tunisian startup in, I don't know, e-commerce in Africa, building, like focusing on e-commerce and be able to input AI technology or AI strategy on that solution? Or if it is a fintech, why do not just eCompass, I take an example of eCompass, create a fintech company and use AI expertise to build a a credit scoring model where you can scale all over in Africa. And by that, you'll be able, for example, to raise $200 million and be a unicorn. It's just a question of strategy. Why you want to be so focused on that cluster of AI or robotic or cybersecurity, and not to use those as a tech enable to address like big subject in Africa.
What?
So, talking about robots, cybersecurity, AI, let me talk about robots. Anis Sahbani with Innov'i Robotics. His idea was very simple. He had everything for him in France. He could have started his business there. There was a specific law, new law in France. He had everything to do it there. He said, okay, there's a train of robotics to take now somewhere in the world. He said, let me go back to my country and take it from there and help my country take the robotics train. Today, he's the provider of robots to protect nuclear sites in France. He's selling robots to Chinese universities so they can teach with it robotics. So he's very ahead of technology. But there's one example. What have we done since then? Since you are responsible, in the Minister of Industry, we have Innovation City here also. You work a lot on Industry 4.0. So are we more going to consume Industry 4.0, which is already a good thing because we could miss the train on that since we depend of European constructors that come and build industries here? Or are we really, that was the sense of my question, are we really going to take over the world with our technology? We really could do that, but what is missing to do it? And this is, again, for all of you now.
I would like first to answer my friend. It's also related, the two questions are related. At iCompass, when we started, the main problem that we work on is language. We have more than 2,000 languages in Africa. We have something like 30 dialects in Arab countries. But today, we are talking about 450 million people in Arab countries, 1.2 billion people in Africa. But all these people, what they are using today as products is based on French or English. We know there is, as Hiba said, there is a problem of low level of education in Africa. So what we think at iCompass is instead pushing people to learn languages, we create machines that can understand these people in their native languages and understand each other's. So we create products like chatbots, voice bots that are based in the native language to enhance customer experience. Okay. Same for the robots, for the IoT. We create products that are dedicated to smart house, smart cars, because we think that these products should be based on the native language of the people in Africa. We cannot wait to see a French product or English product deployed with the English accent, the perfect English accent, because we know that this will never work. That's why at iCompass, we work to bridge the gap of this linguistic and dialect barrier. And since the population of Africa, we will soon see unicorns from Africa working on problems of Africa, because no one will do it until we do it as Africans.
So I can take the question regarding Innov'i Robotics. So as you may know, Innov'i Robotics is already based at Innovation City in Sousse. And we are collaborating with Anis and his team. And recently, we have developed one of the POC of an AGV. So we are really in a co-creation mode with Innov'i Robotics and all, in fact, the community of at Innovation City. So does this answer your question?
Let me answer first the question of Ahmed about governance, AI policy. So I think the main key success of the AI strategy would be the best governance model that will be deployed to implement the AI strategy. As we see in several countries, we have to make a leadership in the country dealing about AI. We saw in the ministry, in the Dubai, for example, in the UAE, there is a ministry of AI. In Arab of Saudi, they created the Data Supreme Council related directly to the king. So, and in Korea, there is one, in Korea, in America, in other countries, there is a man in charge of this portfolio. And in America, it was, with Biden, it was promoted from a director to a minister, directly linked to the Joe Biden cabinet. So we need, why this? Because it's a transversal technology and we need a lot of collaboration and coordination between all the stakeholders. And that's why it's important for the coming policy to create a very effective governance model to deploy the strategy. Why Africa or Tunisia don't have licorn or big tech companies? Because in fact it's the curve of the history. You can't move from 0 to 100 in few years. We are a continent that don't believe in technology. We are still in the 18th century. So our economies are based on or are based in natural resources, but not in savoir, économie de savoirs, in knowledge economy. So we are moving to this. We are developing our talent, but there is a lot of problem, a lot of challenges need to be tackled in the coming years. So it takes time, but it's not a fatality. We are going to progress. And when we see all this vivacity in the AI value system or ecosystem in Africa, in Egypt, in South Africa, in Kenya, in Senegal, in a lot of, in Abidjan, etc. So there is a lot of new generation which is believing in technology and in brainwave technology, especially, that doesn't need a lot of investment, a lot of money. So I am comfortable and I am hopeful that in the coming 20 years, we will have a new generation of like Silicon Valley. So, and we have some proof that we can do that. Coming to the question to Tunisia, there is a lot of opportunities for Tunisia because it invested a lot of it in education, and we have a pool of talent in Tunisia that can really change our economy in Tunisia. But a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of mindset and culture have to be changed. I am visiting some weeks ago the website of Israeli Ministry of Innovation. Their first slogan is, "Innovation is our natural resource." Innovation is our natural resource. So it's a mindset. It's not about, but it's not a problem of technology. It's not a problem of money. It's a problem of mindset and culture. If we put technology and innovation as a pillar of developing our economy, it will change, because we will change our regulation. We will change our financing model. We will change our organization. We will change our priorities. If you look to the code of investment in Tunisia, there is no priority. Everything is priority. There is not a real focus for the country to become a leader in technology, for example, biotech or other AI or other technology. So we need to focus in some specific competitive set in our economy, and we have to rely in our researchers and talent people and startups. And that's what we are thinking about. We are developing in our ministry. We are trying to develop through our technoparks, and there are a lot of good success stories in our ecosystem. We are talking about Innov'i Robotics, which was chosen by the Ministry of Defense in France to develop some tech solutions. But last week I was talking to Avionav, and they were chosen by the Ministry of Defense of France to develop drones for them. So a lot of promising startups that can be in the coming future probably a licorn or a big company.
Thank you, Mr. Qais, for your input. So we have just 3 minutes, and we can end with your question.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the interesting discussion. I do have some disagreements on the time span, because we've seen 6 unicorns coming out of Africa in the last year. I don't think 20 years is really what we should aim for. But I think I would love to pick up on that maybe offline later on. One is a comment and a question. So we actually are a fintech company, and we do have the first banking, digital banking product that has Arabic and the Tunisian dialect as an option instead of just French and English. And the goal is to really make that available. And we actually are playing around with Tunbird in some areas that are maybe not particularly relevant to the core business model, but really interesting for us to explore. So thank you for making that available, and I'd love to let you know more about what we're doing. But first of all, I would love to hear more about the KPIs of success of such partnerships, the decisions of making certain things open source and what they mean in the general vision of what iCompass is trying to do. And then overall, what do you think is a successful startup-to-startup partnership that is contributing to the core business of what you're trying to do 5 or 10 years down the line?
Thank you for your question.
Thank you. I'm really happy to hear that Tunbird is started to be used by other startups and other companies. Startup is Tunbird is the mind of the Tunisian dialect that you can play with it to create products. So at iCompass we create products going from chatbots, multilingual, multi-dialects, to voice bots, multilingual and multi-dialects. Having the key of a language can open a lot of opportunities. The relationship between your company and your customers will be more easy. And your customers, as a KPIs, we found out that customers are much more happy when a bot, when they think it's a bot, is talking their native language they can understand. Voice also is very important. We know that in Africa and in Arab countries, we like to talk a lot. And today people prefer to ask the question via voice, not with text. That's what we do at iCompass. That we take a question, it's a voice question, and the answer is a voice. And this is much more easy for companies to have a better relationship with their customers. But I would be happy to talk this and see if there is a collaboration between us. Yes, thank you.
So I would like to thank all of you for the interaction and for your valuable input. Thanks to our audience for their attention, and see you soon.
Okay. Thank you, panelists. So later we're going to have another panel about growing Africa's mobile money market and e-commerce offerings. But before that, we're going to have 2 keynotes. So the next keynote is going to be presented by Moaz Ghanmi, and after that, Tierno Sako. So let me call for Moaz Ghanmi, who's going to tell us why Africa